Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to Panelists' favorite show tonight. Albums that are 20 years old. That's right, 2004. The launch of Facebook, otherwise known at that point as the Facebook. Good thing they changed that. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, raked in 11 Oscars that night. Particularly all of them they were nominated for, which is only like the third time in history that's ever happened. Salmon was $4.99 a pound. Can we go back to 2004, please? We said farewell to the Oldsmobile, to Frasier, to Ray Charles, Rick James, but we will never say farewell to Usher. Yeah. 20 years later, host the Super Bowl. And yeah. And speaking of yeah, we'd love for you to like, comment, and subscribe. There'll be no white flag upon our music door here for those of you waiting for me to introduce the panel. Here we go. Let's meet the Fockers. Grateful Dude, Susie Q, and Jeff Young. Obviously, I'm alluding to one of the popular movies of 2004. I didn't think they were The Incredibles, and I was going to introduce Jeff as Shrek,
I take
offense to
that. I take offense to that. I like The Incredibles, so
that's a great movie.
I like The Incredibles.
It is. So the panelists tonight, their favorites from 2004. We got One Generation and Three in Another. So it'll be, if there's not overlap, I will be stunned. So since the Grateful Dude is the eldest on the panel, we're going to start with him and let him give us his number 5.
Okay. So my number 5 is not one of my favorite albums, but it was the strangest album of 2004 in my book. Somebody I completely love and adore fucking went off his rockers. This guy went so far to left field, they had to send a subway for him. It's terrible. It's just like, So I had to make this my number 5 because I tried listening to it. Matter of fact, I did listen to it, but I think a couple of my cogs up here broke listening to it. I am talking about the famous Frank Zappa, and the name of the album is Joe's Damage.
Joe's Damage.
That is one freaking freaky album. It sounds like it's band practice, is what it sounds like. A lot of talking here and there. How they ever put this as that album, I don't know who he convinced, who he paid, or who he blowed, but something got straight here.
I don't think at that point he had to do anything. He could have done whatever he wanted. He probably self-produced it. The
thing is, I'm not going to tell people out there to listen to it, unless you love Frank Zappa and you want to see what the worst he can do is, because that's where this album is going to be. I'm not going to talk much about it, the making or anything. It's just really bad. But being a Frank Zappa lover, when I saw this album in 2004, I got to listen to it. And what? That's all I could say, because it was so far far anything he's ever done. It actually really does. Thinking about what I just said, it really sounds like a band practice. Like, okay, let's turn the mics on, see what the hell happens. And that's
odd coming from him, because you get oddity anyway. You never get scripted. It's avant-garde always, usually. So yeah. This is way avant-garde, apparently.
Yeah, this is not in guard. This is like off guard. So it's just it's bizarre. I dare any of you listen to Mr. Frog. That's all I'll say.
Mr. Frog. Okay, everybody, listen to Mr. Frog and give us the comments back. That'll be interesting. Yes. I did listen to the album. I would concur with Mr. Johnson and his somewhat critique. There's always something in a Zappa album I'm like, wow. And then there were parts where I went, what?
Didn't it sound like a band practice? All the
It
talking
definitely had
stuff.
that elements of what like they went in and they said, yeah, that's all right, yeah, all right. No, no, not that one. No, maybe.
And then you hear this trumpets going on and they stop. And then they
Yeah.
start a song, it sounds really good. Then they stop and they go into something else. It's like, what?
But the one song I
Like they
thought
got
was
the channel
intentional.
clicker.
Yeah. I I gotta look. I have to look up I didn't look up all the things, but I knew you were going to talk about it. But yeah. So we'll go with Mr. Young.
I don't
Number
really
five.
have any particular order, but I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses by Slipknot. Some of their most classic, revered songs or tracks are on this album, and again, for that time, a band that's that heavy to have a blend of lyrics you can clearly understand versus ones that maybe you normally wouldn't, but yet still can't understand is awesome with great music, really heavy percussion, and just some of the probably I'd be surprised if 3 songs off this album aren't played for the rest of their careers when they tour.
This is the album with the zipper or
Yeah.
something like. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I can never remember the names of their albums. I don't know why. It's tricky. I had to. I was not a fan at first. Taking me a long time to get into them. Cool. Sue.
So I kind of went on a similar trek as the Grateful Dude in a way. I went with CeeLo Green as a soul machine. Um, I'm not the world's biggest CeeLo Green fan, but I love his voice. So I just went back to this and listened through it, and to me, it's also somewhat experimental. I mean, it's well done too, in a way, but just a different sound. I like to look for different sounds. You know me, Mark. I just like to hear different things that I haven't heard before, and so this album kind of does that. He worked with Timberland on it, Ludacris, and Pharrell Williams. And it's his voice, it's his sound. It's just it's a little weird, but if you're looking for something different than you haven't heard in a while, and it's really not commercial. There's none of like the normal, you know.
Yeah, beat tracks and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So
Definitely
yeah,
instruments being played.
that's my number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is considered country, alt country. And it's by a gentleman from Georgia, a guitar player, singer, songwriter of The Estranged. I would say he has a finger in the religious, I don't know, underbelly, we'll call it. Just the way he goes about things. And this is Jim White in the Drill a Hole in the Substrate and Tell Me What You See. Unusual lyric experience against incredible variety of modern indie alt country, mixed with themes, harmonies, and some haunting oddities. It's very eclectic, but it's approachable too. One of the songs is called If Jesus Drove a Motorhome. If you get the idea of what I'm speaking about, a phone booth in heaven. But you've got, and here it is. All right. You go, this is obtuse. It's clearly out in left field. He's from Georgia. But who's on the album? Bill Frisell, jazz legend. All of the Bare Naked Ladies play on this album. What? Amy Mann, M. Ward, and members of the Sadies, another Canadian legendary band. So alt country, dark in some places, weird in others, but the lyrics are exceptional, really well done. And if I remember correctly, his other album, No Such Place, after this, it became a staple in the Hollywood community because he was like the really sought after kind of guy everybody was wanted to be a part of. So I think he did some, movies of his own, but he's got other things like Wrong Eye Jesus. There's always like a religious dirty undertone of some sort. But anyway, that's mine. Drill a hole in the substrate and tell me what you see. That's number 5. Back to the Grateful Dude for one he loves.
Well, yeah, absolutely one I love. But I've heard that album you just reviewed. I loved it. I loved the album. Yeah, it's a good album. Anyway, so my next one, we'll start with people I really like. This gentleman I don't mention too much, but I listen to him a lot. He is just a country superstar. And in 2004, he released an album. It didn't go number 1, but it sat in the mid-20s for quite a while during the year. I am talking about the very famous Travis Tritt. And the album is My Honky Tonk History. Great album. A couple of these songs in the album were written by his friend Mellencamp.
Oh, John. Okay.
Yeah, John Mellencamp wrote a couple of these songs. He wrote a couple, but there was a lot of other writers on this. But the songs are great. The Girls Gone Wild, smash hit. Everybody loved it. I loved it. What You Say and I See Me, which was the Mellencamp song. Great sound. This is Travis Tritt at his best. Is it his best album? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's hard to say, but it's a very good album. As I said, hovered in mid-20s. There was so much competition in 2004.
Oh yeah, in 2004.
Yeah,
wow.
2004, you may not have had a lot of rock code on, but you had so many country albums come out. It was like an invasion. So, but I really liked this album, and out there, you like the Travis Tritt, or you just like country, then try this one. So it's a 20-year-old album, but it still speaks true today.
Oh, good.
Does it sound like a honky tonk?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
There's honking and tonking all over the place here.
I always wonder what tonky was.
Yeah, well, I'll show you later.
Mr. Young.
I'm doing the album Antics from Interpol. And one of the first times I ever even learned of Interpol was the video for this song. Which one is it? What song is that? It's Evil, where I must have saw it on TV or something, whatever, like MTV or something like that. But it's basically a puppet at the scene of an accident. It's captivating. You can't not watch it. And their style it's unique to anybody else. Like, it's not like at first when you listen to the singer, you think, oh, it's very monotone, but it's way more than that. He's just got his own style of vocals. And I've seen them a couple times live. They're great live. And this album was my introduction to them, and been a fan ever since.
I had Interpol at, where are they? Number 13. Number 13. Sue, to you.
Looking at that puppet. Sorry. It's a weird sentence to say.
Yeah. I thought maybe it was Parker and Stone minute we were gonna go to,
So my number 4, I went with what?
Just Team America. Go ahead.
Team America. Remember the puppets?
Yeah. Okay. So Her by
PJ Harvey.
PG Harvey. This was her 6th album. Of course, I heard her through Mark. So this album in particular was kind of compared to Radiohead's Hell for the Thief, I think. And I think actually, Mark, somebody was talking about it before. I did not steal it. But she wrote, she recorded, she produced this one. It's raw. It's got her intensity. It's just a nice. It's PJ Harvey, and
It's kind of like Fiona Apple before Fiona Apple, right?
maybe I'll have to think
Yeah,
about
that's kind of, but she just has a wicked tone when she brings something to it raw, when it's raw,
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the big hit off that album. What was that? Our first big hit. Do you remember?
Oh, well, no, that's not on there. You're talking about Bring Me in the Water, Jump Back In and Give Me My Daughter. That's not on that album.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what I
No,
was thinking.
that's on, I can't think of the name of it, but this is the one that followed it, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe.
Right? Yes. No, no, that's not true. A couple albums later.
Anyway,
Thank God I have them in time chronological too.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
solid album. And she plays instruments on it. She's she's triple threat kind of gal.
yeah. Um, she's
PJ
got an
Harvey.
ear. Say again.
PJ Harvey.
DJ Harvey. Nice pick. She was on my list, I think somewhere in the 20s. All right, so number 4 for me. What can you say about this clever wheelhouse rock blues album? It goes every vacation with us when we go somewhere. The lady who knew that she would be in competition with Melissa Etheridge as a solo guitarist female. This is KT Tunstall's Eye to the Telescope. Just she's got root, she's got swagger, she's uncompromising yet still available to radio. Now, don't get me wrong, later on she goes a little bit off the reservation, but that's because she can really play guitar. She's exceptionally talented there, and of course she's not English, so not from America, so she has a little bit different take on things. Anyway, yeah, so that's an album I played again and again and again, and it still comes up today. It's still, Black Horse and a Cherry Tree. Who's not listening to that song when it comes on? You don't turn that off. Anyway, I do like a little radio friendly stuff from time to time with a great hook. She's got all kinds of hooks on that album.
Yeah, but there's some other good songs in there that didn't make to the radio.
Right, that's mark of a great album. Let's start to finish. Chef Jeff, Grateful Dude.
Okay, so now we get into people I really like. Even though the last one was a killer. This is one of my main men, and I wish my buddy Everett was here to listen to me, but hey. So I am talking about the album License to Chill by the always remembered Jimmy Buffett. I love this album. I liked it when it came out. I bought this album when it came out 20 years ago. Got a lot of compilations in it. It was his only album ever of all his albums to go number 1 on the Billboard 200. Only one.
Okay.
But this has got so many people in it. It's just interesting. He starts off with Hey Good Looking, an old standard by Hank Williams. Then he went into Boats to Build with Alan Jackson. Great version of the song. And then he did License to Chill and another duet with Kenny Chesney. And then he did Coast to Carolina by himself. Piece of Work did a duet with Toby Keith. Anything. Bruce Cockburn song.
Cockburn.
Excellent song. Yeah, excellent song. Trip Around the Sun, Martina McBride did a duet with. A lot of duets on this. Did See a Heartbreak with George Strait. That's why this was very high on the country list, because he went to every country friend he has to play with me.
Yeah, he knocked on the door and said, "Hey, will you come on my album?"
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give you a cheeseburger and a margarita.
Yep. And then he did Corky Tonkin with Clint Black. And then at that, Bill Withers did Playing the Loser again with him. And then his last duet is Someone I Used to Love with Nancy Griffith. So
Okay.
great album. I really like this album. And I had such joy yesterday and today re-listening to it today. It's such a fun, upbeat album. And to hear him with other very, very talented people is very fun to listen to. Great orchestration on this and rewriting a bit on this album.
Jeff, if you put that album on, do you just, when it's over, do you just want to just play it again?
Yes. It's a good album. It's a really, really good album. Is it his finest? In my mind, it might be, but I'm gonna. That's for our compilation. We did do all 37.
Catalog review show for him.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what is that? 30 albums? That could take
Over
a few
30,
hours.
over 30. This is the 25th in 2004. So.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna throw the Christmas albums out.
All right, quick, Jeff, name them all. Just kidding.
No, that's Everett's job, not mine. I'm not a parrot head.
I did have to name them all. I did have to name them all, and I did.
Oh, well,
long show.
That would be a very long show.
Well, we did it when we did the Thank You Forever.
That's right, you did. I forgot, but you had it written down.
Yeah. I would be a fool not to.
Yeah.
Mr. Young.
Okay.
I am picking Contraband from Velvet Revolver. So it's got some. It actually, I think it. If I look at right here, yeah, it did debut at #1 on Billboard when it came out, and debut album from a collection of 3 members of Guns N' Roses plus the singer Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. I just think they blended really well together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a good album. I probably honestly I don't know if I've ever actually listened to it beginning to all the way through, but just like you can pick any section, any 3, 4, 5 songs in a row, and you don't have a problem listening to them. You don't want to really skip them too much, but they've got, to this day, that the band still has, that pops up on, internet or even just on a regular radio station, if anyone listens to those. But it was a really good and kind of a decent album cover too. I like it. It's just straight ahead rock. It's just good. It really fits in. It's not, even though it's a singer of one band and members of the other, they don't sound like their original band.
No, they don't.
Sound like their own. They sound like themselves. Like you can tell it's obviously Scott Weiland. You can, at some points, you can tell. Oh yeah, it definitely sounds like a signature Slash, section. But those guys could sing or play with anybody anyway. So
yeah, I think it was like number 9 or number 10 on my list. And every time I think of that, I always go album war. That versus Audio Slave. You just see who wins. Who wins in it? Sue.
So, I didn't want to go with this band because it just seems like an easy choice, but I went with U2, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. It's U2 and it's a good album and memorable songs. I think it won some awards. Yes, it did win some awards. It won like 8 Grammys. I think it won Album of the Year. It was their 11th album, I believe, 11th studio album. And yeah, what is it? Are we on number 2 or number 3?
This is 3.
it's 3.
3, yeah. I mean, it's not my favorite U2 album, but it was good for the times. And I do remember, I think a lot of people kind of gave it a thumbs down, but I liked it. Enjoyed it. I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, that was Lily White, right? I think he produced it. He produced Dave Matthews, so it was kind of like a different. It was kind of different for them in a way. It's not
Yeah.
total. But I remember Vertigo. That's the song I
Yes.
remember pretty
Mhm.
much. Yeah, I might have to go back to that one. I don't really remember it as well as I think I do. Cool.
Vertigo. There was You Can't Make
Was
It on
that the
Your Own.
album? Was that the album that came free when you bought like an iPhone?
No,
Or one of
no.
their albums came with it.
Songs of Innocence. No, something like that. But
It
no,
was
this
one of
was
them, did, but it wasn't that one. Okay, just
yeah, it
This
curious.
wasn't that
that
one.
this album sold over 10 million copies, so it did pretty well.
Yeah,
But
I don't. Yeah, that was not the one that came with it. I can't think of the name of that album.
It's all right.
So we'll look it up.
I will. I'll
So
look it
my
up right
number three is it wasn't on my list at all at the start. I completely forgot about it. Then it showed up on a list of obscure 2004 albums that needed to be reckoned with that people didn't know where to put or place because of the sound and what was going on. And it fell to progression, to the progressive world, the odd progressive world. So the band I'm talking about is Secret Machines. Now Here Is Nowhere. And for me, my introduction to them was The Road Leads Where It Led, which it is a song technically about war. They
Mhm.
talk about semaphores, those are the poles and the communications, and how blowing all the other kids away. It's a very bass riff, drum and bass. That's the whole thing of this Texas band. You wouldn't know they were from Texas. You wouldn't have a clue. But would you think this is progressive? You wouldn't at first, but the keyboard going on and that way it leads into everything is totally unique in music. Um, these are interesting vocal against interesting lyric that goes a lot of. I think this is like it's a hidden Pink Floyd kind of feel. You got space rock in there, all kinds of things. It's a it's a great representation of how you can be a band and not have anybody comparing you to anybody else. Well, they sound like this, they sound like that. They do not. And it's a worthy listen. If you're a progressive rock individual and you've never heard of this band, it would be something that you should want to try. Um, but they actually were offered a lot of money to do a second album because they only had a one album deal. They chose not to because they didn't give a crap about the fame. They thought everything was tainted, so they wound up taking a lot of time between albums and deciding what they want to do. And they released an album last year, which I reviewed too, if you've been following the channel. But that's Secret Machines. Now Here Is Nowhere. Back to the Grateful Dude.
Okay, well, it's funny. This is a little deja vu because I just talked about this lady the other day, and she just keeps coming. So I am talking about my lady, one of the best singers in the world, in my opinion, especially female wise.
Mel
I'm
Crooner.
talking about I'm talking about the girl in the other room, Diane Krall, 2004. Now, this is pretty much a milestone album for her. This is the seventh album, but the first six, she didn't write words or music to any of them. They're all covers. This is the first album she got together with her husband. This is like year one in their marriage, and over half the songs were written by him or her or both. I think this is her best album. I honestly believe this is her best album, and why she never went back is the album since she hasn't written very much at all. Why, I'm not sure. Maybe she doesn't have the time, inspiration. Maybe hubby's out on the road too much. It could be any of the above. But this um album, let me just getting there we go. So she starts off with "Stop the World," an old famous by
Sinatra.
Otis. Huh?
Sinatra, right?
No, Mose Allison.
Oh, okay. All
Yep,
right.
yep. But The Girl in the Other Room, um, words and music by Diana and Elvis. Temptation by Tom Watts. I love Tom Watts.
Mhm.
And then I Changed My Address, another compilation of Costello and Craw. And then see what else did she write? Narrow Daylight was Costello and Craw. Black Crow, best song on this whole album, happens to be a Joni Mitchell song.
Okay.
And then the last three are all the last three on the album are all Crawl and Scott Costello. So yeah, great album. As we said the other night, you know, if you're in the jazz, in the Frank, not only should you listen to this, but this should be the first album you listen to. Because this is really, it's a good album. The music, and it's, you won't hear too many old standards, which sometimes people say, "Oh, I want to hear what they can really do." And in this album, she shows what she can do. Mark?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to think if that was actually produced by Costello, that album.
Let's see.
Nope. Tony La Puma and Dinah
Okay.
Crow. Oh, okay.
Well, she does. She produces
Or no,
a
Jeff
lot
Young.
of
Sorry, Jeff. You're next.
I picked This Type of Thinking Could Do Us In by Chevelle. It's just like heavy melody, great music, but it's not so aggressive you don't want to listen to it. Like it's actually, it's like heavy music, but you get like a softer voice. It's just I like it quite a bit. It's for the second album, it's probably just as good as the first album, which is hard to do when you have a successful first debut album. So yeah, it's an awesome rock album.
I don't know Chanel.
You would recognize it if you heard it, probably.
Good.
I think at that point, we were listening to so much of that heavier. I was
I think
anyway.
the big one off that album was The Clincher.
The what?
I'm trying to think of the songs off that album. It wasn't The Clincher on that album. I have to look it up.
Yeah, I was gonna look up Chevelle albums because I was trying to figure out where in the. So, the Clincher, that was big. But actually, the Vitamin R was the lead single, and then Panic Prone was the final single from that album. I want to say like there were a lot of people that trashed that record.
Well, I think some people who are like really pro Tool thought that his voice
Yes,
sounded
that they were
like
ripping
really,
off Tool.
but I don't agree because the way they sing is completely different.
Yes. Yeah, here's the All Music. Johnny Loftus observes the album as flatly mixed, lost in depression, and obsessed with rewriting sober for a new generation of lank-haired misunderstoods. But then again, you had Melodic, say it's a real quality album that you will never get bored of. I think that's reasonable in every way, shape, and form. The album doesn't disappoint. I think the production on is pretty good. I mean, if you're comparing it to Tool, you just no. I don't think anybody says I want to be like Tool. No, I think they want to be their own band and they may be inspired by Tool, but you don't want to be the same thing as Tool. I did at the beginning believe that they were trying to find a sound, and they were kind of, with that record, in between their sound and everybody else's for me.
And they are very good live.
I would imagine so. Their last record, the Space one, I can't think, it was ridiculously good. Was
really good. I forget the name.
And that's I think they were trying to move to progressive more so, and they did a marvelous job of that. I'm a fan of theirs now, and I'm probably going to go back. But sometimes when you go back, you're like, ooh, wow, they were a little not raw, but more rock oriented than progressive. So
So the U2 album, maybe Songs of Innocence, is that it?
yes, yeah.
So my number two, I went with American Idiot by Green Day. So I don't know if anybody else chose this one or not, so I won't say too much about it, but it was their seventh album. Some say it was their best album. Some say it was what kind of catapulted them forward. Whatever you think about it, it sold like 16 million copies. It won Best Rock Song, I think, and I think it won like Best Rock Performance. Um, American Idiot, Wake Me Up When September Comes, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, all really strong, good songs that were on the album.
Wake Me Up When September Ends was the ending song to Seinfeld.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good. I mean, and then there's the political end of it too. Some people might get upset about it, but I mean,
That's
they
a
made
great
it work.
album.
They made it work
Great
for
album.
them, and I mean, they capitalized off of capitalism and put it on display and made a lot of money, and it allowed them to keep going. So good for them.
Yep. Yeah. Wicked album.
Wicked. So, yeah. Number two.
My number two. If you miss Soundgarden, this is the only voice that you can go to that's like it. This is Thornley. Come again.
I
Ian
didn't realize that was
Thornley
2004. I would have picked that one.
of Big Wreck. Was Big Wreck was done at the time, and Thornley put this together, I believe, with one of the guitars from Matt Good, maybe. But then this album comes out, solo album. I didn't know what to expect. And this so reminded me of what Edwin did when he put out his solo record for My Mother Earth. Just go
This is
at
another
it.
level for me.
Yeah, I mean, yes, above it. I mean, he has a better voice than Edwin does, right? But kind of like the whole, they can yell, they can bolt, they can lower it down. This is an incredibly well done album. It's produced like magnificently. I forget who did the production of it. It's banger, 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 banger. I mean, it's one after another, and his vocal is never the same. The song pitches and the riffs are never the same. There's always something different. It's almost as if they are the Soundgarden collective soul of at that moment to put together.
That might still be my favorite album of his.
Yeah, it might even be my favorite album over all the Big Wreck. Although I do love the Big Wreck albums. Yeah, the Big Wreck albums go on a little too long sometimes. Maybe there's a couple here and there, but his vocal is as close to Chris Cornell as you're going to get. And he's not doing an homage. That's just his vocal. And I believe, if I remember correctly, when we saw him, he smokes like 17 packs of cigarettes and sings all these songs and does cover songs while the band's tuning. So he's quite the character, and he can really sing. He really can.
Nice.
Back to the Grateful Dude, number one.
Number one. Okay, this was very easy. I had number one as soon as I started to look it up. It's an album from one of my main men, somebody I will always love. This is his 52nd album in 2004. We're talking about the marvelous, absolutely incredible Willie Nelson. This man is just, I've seen him. I love him. I can never get enough of him. When I started looking at what was made this year, there was no question this was going to be my number one. I love this album completely. He goes off. He has a couple good duets on this thing. He did Midnight Rider, Allman Brothers song with Toby Keith. excellent version of this song. Excellent version of this song. He did a duet with Nora Jones.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Dreams come true. A great rendition of that. This is just a good album. Is it its best? I don't know. There's 50 some others to look at, so be hard to tell. I can't wait until we do a Cadillac review on him. So
yeah, it's a three-part series. It'd be longer than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it could be about 12 hours, I'm thinking. So, no, again, out there, if you're into Willie and you haven't heard this album, you should listen to it right away. This is a good album. It's just, and I just love his voice was still in really good condition. It's faded a bit in the last 20 years, but then again, I think he's 106. He's
yeah,
very,
your voice would fade too.
Yeah, exactly. Mine already has, but yeah, go ahead and check this album. It's really good. Mark,
Mr. Young, you're number one.
Well, I originally picked American Idiot, but since you reminded me of Thornley, and I listen to Thornley way more than that, I'm picking Thornley.
There you go.
Number one.
Come again.
Yeah, what else can you say? It's a perfect album. I think it's awesome. It's great.
Oh, this is going to be a real short ending. My number one. I want to be a part of the redneck agenda.
You didn't get to me yet. You skipped me. Skip right over me.
Oh, you're right.
you did that again.
Like I'm not even here.
Sue, you're number one.
I am number one.
Yes.
Number one.
So, and look at, they're all smiling now, except for Jeff.
He never smiles.
So I suppose some people will say this is a sellout choice, but I went with some hot sugar type sound only because it just made me smile thinking about it, and it's just kind of a fun album. Love Angel Music Baby by Gwen Stefani. You know, Holler Back Girl, Rich Girl, What You Waiting For. It's just a good, fun, catchy album. It didn't change the world, but she really, she just took off at that point in time and made her own little mark and started her own little fashion statement, and she's still here and kind of still in the business, so good for her. I think a lot of people thought that she was going to be done, no. So good album for her, fun. That's it.
Yeah, it's good.
Would you no doubt or that?
I kind of like her on her own, to be honest, but yeah.
Not as they're not ska with punk, right? Not as punk.
A little bit more, yeah. Yeah.
That's why I wonder, because I know the punk thing was never
Kind of like
Like
a
your-
punk pop dance.
Yeah.
all right. Good. So yeah, as I alluded, I want to be part of that redneck agenda. The Green Day album was immediately my number one. It wasn't even close. That record is one of the most astounding punk records ever made. And anybody can talk about all the other punk. You can talk about the Sex Pistols all you want. You can talk about that little bit of London Calling and all that. They're really good albums. But this is a punk rock opera. Who pulls that off? And a band that technically before that, you might have said they're very stuck in a 2-chord, 3-chord stanza.
Well, they put it on Broadway, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
this is like they were here. Everybody loves them, and they just said, you know what, we can do way better, way better. That album, like the minute it hit, you could have played that entire record on the radio, and not, skip the song, and everybody they all would have been number one hits. Everybody would have went through. It's an album start to finish. It's better than the Who's Quadrophenia. It's better by far. There's not a single lost track on there. There's nothing that's trying to elongate anything. They get their message done. I don't think it's that long of an album, from a standpoint of as many songs as there are. But yeah, I'm bold on that. I just that I don't like that kind of music technically that much. So that's unlikely for me for that to be a number one. But in 2004, still something I listen to all the time. And my kids, who have different musical tastes, that album comes on, they're not disgusted by it at all. They like it, especially Helena. She likes it. So I have a couple honorable mentions because they're unique. Does anybody else have any honorable mentions?
Can't remember if I did.
The only one I would have is that I listened to that was it fought for number 5, but it went and I had to do a bad one. The Cure by The Cure.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
I like
album.
it.
Really good album.
Yeah.
All right. So the reason I'm doing this is because in some cases a lot of things get lost in these, with all you got your Gwen Stefani's, you got your Green Days, right? Thornley, that's kind of obscured to some degree as it's Canadian. But so I'm gonna go to Canada for this one. All right. And this is not a typical record for this band. When it came out, I think the people who are with them kind of were stunned. It's called Songs of the Unforgiven, and this is Crash Test Dummies.
Oh, yeah.
And this is very different, dark, not country, but basically Western. Okay. It is an incredibly well crafted, vocally delivered, and female singer on as well. So, and this is a little outside of their normal wheelhouse, and this is a few years of albums into. And I was stunned. Still one of those. It's totally unique. It's bleak in cases, but it's centered and it's perfect in the lyrical delivery. Of course, with his baritone voice, it's just it does what it intends. If you want to liken it to something, The Ghosts That Haunt Me, to some degree, that's there, just not as enraptured in musical integrity of picking and craziness. But yeah, I would recommend that highly. So now going from that, if you are enraptured with well-known songs and you like to see them get messed with to an extreme, take A Perfect Circle's Emotive. Okay? Because Mr. Maynard from Tool and A Perfect Circle decides to take on What's Going On by Marvin Gaye and twist that into
It's like
some
covers and
dark.
mixes.
What?
It's like covers and mixes, right?
It's covers in most, yes. And John Lennon's Imagine. Oh, it's not the Imagine you think it is. And is it I think it starts with Annihilation. Annihilation. Whose song is that? Anthrax? No. Annihilation.
I don't know.
Oh, come on, Mark. Terrible on my part. I'll type it in the bottom here. It escapes me. I'm old. But then there is the song that made it like I was struggling to put this on my list because there's one song on there that I believe is like the most incredible dark metal progressive song that I've ever heard in my life. And I have to remember how to say it because I don't always say it right. Counting Bodies Like Sheep to the Rhythm of the War Drums. That was written by Howderell and Keenan themselves. So that's the only, I think, song on here. No, there's two songs on there, not covers. Passive was written by Keenan and Trent Reznor.
That's a combination of two of their other songs
being jammed together.
Yeah.
It's and then they do When the Levee Breaks and The Fiddle and the Drum by Joni Mitchell. That Joni Mitchell, I don't know what she thinks of that. I'm sure she's probably stunned. You got Devo is on there, Depeche Mode, Black Flag, Annihilation by Crucifix.
Okay.
Okay. And then Peace, Love, and Understanding by Nick Lowe. So if you want to hear it, it's something to behold. And then finally, I'm going to end on something the Grateful Dude and I had this past Saturday. We had reviewed some bands that probably shouldn't be making albums. New Kids on the Block, And then we had this one where we were like, what the hell, and then what the actual hell when we saw the album by Kate Hudson. And of course, we won't spoil it, but you might want to go watch that because you'll be stunned, maybe. A particular actress put out her own first album this year, and that was Minnie Driver.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Everything I've Got in My Pocket. I think she gave everything she possibly had in her pocket to put this album out, and I think it was really well done, very tasteful. Her voice fit everything they did. It's a solid listen from beginning to end. You're not going to be stunned. It's not a masterpiece of musicianship, but it is so melodically done. It fits.
I remember it.
Yeah, very catchy. But her vocal led the record. So it was yeah. As a matter of fact, I listened to it yesterday, and it was like bringing back a little bit of memories. Did she go from there? A couple more albums? No, I don't think it hit the same kind of thing. But that's my honorable mentions. Of course, there are other band and albums from 2004 that could have been loved, but I thought there were a lot of good albums. Matthew Good, he had the Whites at Rock and Roll Review, and that I like it, but it suffers from production issues of being tinty and not as driven as well. But I like that record. There's a great song on there called Little Terror about a kid being a murderer, and they got to tell the mother. But there's all kinds of cool stuff out there for 2004. I don't think this was a bad year in any way, shape, or form. Lots to explore. Country was really big. We had the rock that we showed you. You got Green Day's, but the number one stuff was all like hip hop, rap was all the number ones of like Usher ruled the day. Usher had like 4 singles in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, tell us your favorites from 2004, 20 years old. Don't forget to check us out on Album Review Saturday this weekend. We've got a band from Buffalo and 2 albums that are getting their la-las out. Unknown Sunday is coming up, and of course, every day's album for today. Please like, comment, subscribe if you can. We'd pay you? No, guess we won't. We don't have any money. I want to thank the panelists for joining me on this adventure this time. We'll be back in 2 weeks, where we will be putting our favorite 5 sad songs because they say so much.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, of course. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. And until next time, happy listening.